Holbrook is known as the town with the submarine, and what it talks about is the life of a submariner. What it's like to be a submariner, what it's like to go underwater, what mechanisms are used to sustain life in a submarine, what it's like living in those cramped conditions, what sort of camaraderie is developed amongst submariners as a result of their very different type of naval service. So that's one of the stories in Holbrook. The other story is the story of Holbrook, the man who gave his name to the town.
It tells the story of Holbrook, the township. It tells the story of Commander Norman Holbrook and his gallant deeds in the Dardanelles during the First World War and his crew.
His name came to be bestowed on the town when anti-German feeling was rising during World War I. The place was called Germantown. This clearly had to go.
People did not want to have the town called Germantown. So they had a vote and they found out about Norman Holbrook and his run up into the Dardanelles. He got up into the Dardanelles through a minefield, sunk a battleship on one of the earliest submarines ever made, and got them out in one piece and was awarded the first Submariner's Victoria Cross. We took on that name, and 40 years later some people from Holbrook were visiting England, and they went and knocked on Norman's door and said, look, the town we've named after you is waiting for you to be seen. Would you like to come? And he did come, and he came 3 times and loved it, him and his wife.
He and his wife, Gundula, developed quite a strong relationship with the town. They visited, and Mrs. Holbrook in particular, after her husband died, gave the town a number of items related to his Victoria Cross award, and also gave lots of money to help to move the submarine, HMAS Otway, into the town where it's such a prominent feature of the landscape.
The giant Otway makes an eye-catching sight in the centre of landlocked Holbrook, but the former warship has grown into an integral part of the small town, and the weekend's dedication attracted a strong crowd. Naturally, the Navy had a big role to play and provided plenty of pomp and ceremony. Holbrook's links with the Navy began during the First World War when the town was renamed in honour of heroic submarine commander Norman Holbrook. The Otway was later brought to the town in continuation of the theme, and fittingly Commander Holbrook's wife Gundula was on hand to officially dedicate the sub.
I really feel this is more my town than ever before. Thank you very much for everything.
The formal proceedings dedicated the Otway to all submariners, past, present and future. But Mayor Joan Parker also thanked all those people who made the vessel's transfer to Holbrook a reality.
Thanks to them, a lot more of Australia, and indeed parts of other countries, now know where the hell Holbrook is.
It was late 90s that the submarine came to Holbrook. They had to cut the submarine up into pieces, and they brought it all down the Hume Highway and put it back together again, including the inside of the submarine, which they have now in the museum.
They pulled the fin off, the conning tower there, and all the casing, which is fiberglass, they put all that and put it on trucks. And well, in those days it was only a two-way, a one-way this way and one-way that way highway, and the size of the conning tower took both lanes, so it needed a police escort to get it out through Sydney for starters, under bridges and up skinny lanes and things like that, and then they virtually had to close the Hume Highway down through the wee hours of the morning to get the fin to Holbrook. But the bigger pieces, like the torpedo tube, had to be cut out with an oxyacetylene out of the pressure hull, which is thick steel, and put on trucks and brought down. So it was quite a big, I think the count was about 18 low loaders in the end to get all the machinery here that we wanted. We got halfway through putting the Otway here and ran out of money. And Mrs. Holbrook found out about this, and she sent a very, very generous cheque, and I mean huge amount of money, and said, is this enough money to complete the project? We can't thank the Holbrook family enough for what they've done for this town and for our museum. Well, it's hugely important to have the submarine here. Number one, of course, is tourism. You know, this submarine has put Holbrook on the map all over the world now. But number two is also for our submarine heritage, for submariners like myself and all the veteran submariners and all the serving submariners. We are the only submarine museum in Australia. Generally speaking, the everyday veteran submariner has given their artefacts to this museum, which, you know, I treat with the highest of respect.
The Identity Project has been brought to fruition working collaboratively with 5 stakeholders. They are Museums and Galleries New South Wales with Arts New South Wales funding, Albury City, Corowa Shire Council, Greater Hume Shire Council and Murray Arts.